Hello and welcome back. In this video, I think it's gonna be pretty interesting because I've never seen anything like this before, and I'm gonna break down how I generated my first $1 million. So that's gonna be a combination of sales through businesses, jobs that I had just for regular wages, basically any money that I earned throughout the years up until that $1 million point. And I think it's gonna be really interesting to see like how small it started at first and then how it scaled up exponentially due to a ton of different factors. So this is gonna start back when I was just the ripe age of 13 years old, back when I was just a little nugget trying to, make a couple dollars here and there. It started out with a farm that I used to work on. And so I'm starting at 13 because, before that I made a little bit of money, I'm sure, doing side things or gifts or stuff like that, but I wasn't really verifiable and hardly any amount. So I'm gonna start out with this farm job that I had for $6.25 an hour. And looking back, that was actually lower than minimum wage. So I'm not really sure how exactly that worked out, and I'm also pretty sure they were breaking some kind of child labor laws, because I vividly remember like driving a skid steer around this farm at 13 years old, having no idea what I was doing. But that's besides the point. I worked there just for a brief period of time, like 2 months, and across that whole amount of time, I remember, long days and making like $50 at the end of the day, but across that whole amount of time, I made around $1,000. So that was the first like true $1,000 I made, which is 1,000th of this goal of $1 million. So a long ways to go. But once I realized that, okay, I'm never gonna make any decent amount of money with this job on the farm, that's when I came upon the idea of starting this small landscaping / labor business. And the idea there was I would just charge $15 an hour to do absolutely any service I possibly could for any neighbors or any, people who are willing to talk to me or hire me around the neighborhood. I would end up doing things like shoveling rocks, picking weeds out of the flower beds, eventually mowing lawns, basically anything I could possibly do for $15 an hour. And that alone just blew my mind, because immediately I was making like 2.5 times more an hour than I was on the farm. And I was totally content. I was working less. But I really could only do this during the summer when I wasn't in school. And in the first year doing this, I made like $2,000 with this small landscaping company. So at 13 years old, my total was $3,000. $3,000, long ways to go. Then that brings me to 14 years old, when I was still just a little nugget, but a slightly bigger nugget than I was when I was 13. At this age, I still had the landscaping company, and that's basically what I did, and just did it during the summer. During that year, I made $3 grand from the landscaping company during the summer. I didn't really work that much, but I made a decent amount of money, like $1,000 a month, just from working a few hours a week doing this landscaping thing. So now the total is at $6,000 in lifetime earnings. And now on to 15 years old. And at 15, I'd still consider myself just a little nugget, but now I was a little nugget with a driver's permit. And I still was just running this little landscaping company. I was getting a few more clients here and there. And in that summer, I made $4,000. So at the end of being 15 years old, my lifetime earnings were now $10,000, and that's 1% of the way to $1 million. 1%. 99% more to go. So now I'm 16 years old, and I would not consider myself a nugget anymore. I actually basically look the same at 16 as I do now when I'm 24. It's weird. My passport photo looks like it was taken yesterday, and it was from when I was 16. But I got a new job. I was working just a few hours a week as a janitor at a daycare, and I actually really liked that job because it was just me after hours. I'd go for a couple hours, clean up the place. I'd just be mopping the floors, like singing Adele at the top of my lungs in this building with no one else there. It was pretty entertaining. It was only a few hours a week, and I made like $1,500 or $15 an hour. I wish it was $1,500. And at the end of the year, I made like $2,500 from that on the side. and I was still running the landscaping company, and I was getting more and more lawn mowing jobs, which I absolutely loved. So I was making a little bit more money there. During the summer, I made $5,000 with the landscaping company when I was 16. And also I started another venture when I was 16. Towards the end of being 16, it was definitely in the last 6 months, I started a supplement company. And the reason for that is I was really into lifting and working out, and also into sports, and I wanted to take different various supplements, but I didn't know which ones I could take that would be legal in, like given the high school rules. So I set upon myself to make my own pre-workout product and completely develop it, design it, and I would just, sell it to my friends, sell it online, and then I'd know I'd be able to use this supplement and have no worry that I was breaking any kind of like high school drug test rules or anything like that, because I was really concerned, because I had a ton of focus at that point on being the best pole vaulter in the world, basically, was my goal. So here I actually have an example of exactly what my pre-workout product was. I designed this label and I was so proud of it. I made it on InDesign, and it took me forever to design this. And then with the formula, I had this sports nutrition scientist help me out. He didn't even charge me anything. I'm sure he was like, what the heck is this kid doing? Bought all the ingredients in bulk. It was a pretty cool deal. And I ended up doing this for a few years. In that first 6 months, I earned $400 a month from these supplement sales. I sold them for $20 a pop, and was selling about 20 a month. So it was a nice little side income, and it was something totally different than what I've done before. It was cool to do like a product type business, and something that I was really interested in too, because I was so into fitness. So at 16 years old, I made $9,400, and then that brings the total lifetime earnings to $19,400. So you can already kind of see this upward swing here, where it took 3 years to earn the first $10,000, and then there was just 1 year to earn nearly another $10,000. So, that exponential swing. And also, this also brings me to the point of the importance of saving when you're young for bigger opportunities in the future, because I just saved everything I possibly could. I was super frugal and cheap, and knew that I would need that money later, and this goes into play huge later on. And on to 17 years old, I still had that landscaping company. It was holding strong. That was my baby. I mean, I'd be nowhere without that right now. And at this point, I was really seeing the importance of doing bigger jobs, because I wanted to do as many lawns as I could, because that meant the difference between $15 an hour for just basic labor stuff, or like up to $40 an hour for mowing people's lawns. And I was like, wow, obviously I'd way rather mow someone's lawn and make nearly 3 times more an hour. And that's kind of been the story of how I've done things, is constantly looking for the next thing to level me up, bring me to the next order of magnitude in earnings. Boom, boom, boom. And just try to get that upward swing in the right direction. So with the landscaping company at 17, during that summer, I made $6,000. And that was mostly, it's been a slow growth, but it was mostly due to just getting more lawn mowing clients, because I really wasn't working that much at that time. And I still had the singing janitor job. You might be asking why I did this, because I was only making $15 an hour doing that when I could make more with the landscaping. But the reason was I can only do landscaping during the summer. During the whole year, I could do this janitor job, and it was super easy. I didn't mind doing it. Again, that year I made an additional $2,500 from the janitor job. And I still was running the supplement company as well. It was still making about $400 a month. Got pretty wild and came up with a grape flavor of the pre-workout. Didn't really branch out into any other products, just grape. And at 17, that's when I moved away for college. And I moved about an hour and a half away on a academic and sports scholarship. I mainly wanted to do it to pole vault as much as I could. Like I said, that was my absolute passion back then. And I just wanted to be the absolute best I possibly could at it. And also, it was just set in my mind that you needed to go to college. Like, I remember specifically in high school feeling like if you didn't choose to go to college, you were like an outcast. Like they made you apply and tell you, which college are you going to. So I think that's a little bit crazy looking back. but that's a discussion for another time. So at 17, that year, I made $13,200, and then my lifetime earnings were $32,700 at this point. So now I'm 18 years old, moved away for college. I gave up the landscaping business. I gave up the singing janitor job, but I still did have the supplement company. I was still selling those just a little bit on the side. I did scale back a little bit because I wasn't really focusing on it so much. I made about $300 a month with that, so that's $3,600 in the year. Really I was just focusing on my class schedule. I had a full workload of class plus a ton of practice. We would have practice at 6 a.m. every single day from 6 to 10 a.m. and then I would have evening practice for another hour. So my whole day was filled up with either school or practice, and then on the weekends we had meet. So I really didn't even have time for like a job or anything on the side. And to be honest, this is what I would consider the least productive year of my life, at least year that you can possibly be productive. You don't expect a 2-year-old to be productive. But anyways, I just felt like I was spinning my wheels. I felt like I was there and I was just delaying my life, and it was just frustrating me more and more and more. And I ended up only going to college for a year. After that year, I did other things. So that year I only earned $3,600. So there was a pretty steep decline in yearly earnings, and my total earnings at that point were $36,300. So now I'm 19, I dropped out of college, I'm trying to make something of myself. I moved from Minnesota to Arizona just with a buddy of mine, had no family, friends, or anything like that in Arizona, and I was just basically dropped myself in a situation where it was like sink or swim. I had to figure it out. So in the beginning, I did spend a lot of time doing self-education, which I think is really important. If you're not in college, if you're choosing not to go, you still need to have the discipline to read and teach yourself and learn things, because learning is still important. So I spent a lot of time reading, and at that point I was really interested in finance, and I literally read every single finance book in the Tempe, Arizona Public Library, because I thought that was going to be my way to make something of myself. I thought I would be able to go the Warren Buffett route and buy stocks and build up my wealth that way. And it only took me about 30 finance books before I realized, wait, you can't really make much money doing this unless you already have money to start with, or you have other people's money. So it was kind of back to the drawing board, and I was like, okay, well, I have this knowledge now. I gotta make some money before I can try and invest in other things and make money that way. I have to figure out how to generate my own money first. So I did do some side jobs, just little odd jobs here and there, made about $500 with that. I wasn't selling as many of the supplements anymore. I made about $1,000 in the whole year with that. I was kind of just trying different things and seeing, what would work. I actually did come out with a second product with the supplement company. I didn't end up actually ever selling it. I can't believe I still have one of these, because I guess I just have the packaging. I actually still use it myself. I make this exact formula, but here was my second product. I designed that as well. I actually love the label for this and how it looks. It was a protein coffee, and sugar-free, fat-free. I thought that this was gonna be the greatest thing ever. And I still think that this is something that could sell, but I just don't have the time to do another thing. But I think there's actually some opportunity there. I didn't have the time because I made this product and then had some other opportunities come up. So at this time is when I started my pool cleaning business, and I needed to pay my bills. So there was a lot going on, that got pushed to the side. I was working as a mover for 14 bucks an hour, and I earned around like 3,000 bucks from that in the short few months that I ended up doing that. And like I said, I started the pool cleaning business, and I was building that up and up. And throughout the age of 19, I ended up building that up to about 50 accounts. But I will say it was very rough to start. I didn't get a single client for the first month that I was out like canvassing. Basically, if I wasn't working at the moving company, I was spending time out marketing, trying to figure out how can I get clients. It took about a month before it clicked, and I actually started figuring out a good way to do it, and eventually built it up pretty fast. I had about 50 clients by the time I was 19, and that business made $39,000 in the first year. But that business also kind of got pushed to the side pretty quickly because only several months into it is when I ended up purchasing a moving company. And this is why it's super important. I have to highlight this. I know I've talked about it a million times, but I have to highlight it again. Super important to save the money when you're young, because this opportunity came up. I did a lot of research and I was like, okay, this is what will take me to that next level. And I went all in, and it paid off like amazingly. So I was like 3 months into being 19 years old, and I started with this moving company as well. So I had the moving company now. I was selling just a few supplements on the side, in the pool cleaning business, which I had one employee basically running the route for me. With the moving company, we did $510,000 in the first calendar year. But it did start out slow as well. In the first month, we only made $5,000. And it took a while to start growing, but the first month, $5,000, and then like 7 months in, it was up to $50,000. It was just a combination of being in the right time, at the right place, a ton of hard work. I literally worked every single day, didn't go home for Christmas. I was working 5 different jobs. I was doing payroll, I was on the moves, I was doing admin work, everything to save a dollar because I had nothing left to spend on hiring, most things out. But it paid off from $5,000 in that first month, and 15 months later, making $75,000 a month. So that business did $510,000 in the first calendar year. It's only 9 months of that. I was 19, so to keep this all straight, I made $382,500 from the moving company when I was 19 years old. And as you can see, this is when the scales really tip and the exponential growth just goes through the roof, because it was all this time just like positioned and trying things and waiting and having the savings. And then I saw something and it was just like time to launch, ready to go. So the amount I generated that year was $426,000. So crazy in comparison to the year before, because my total earnings lifetime was $462,000. So I literally made like 10 times, 12 times more in 1 year than I had made in the last 5 years combined. It's because of that exponential growth. It was like the biggest turning point in my life. It was like being strapped to a rocket ship. And that brings me to being 20 years old. And this is when I dropped the supplement company. It just wasn't worth my time at this point. I still think it could potentially have been a great business, and maybe it would have been even the better choice in the long run had I done it, but I can't dwell on that too much. I kept the pool cleaning business. It did grow slightly, but not much, because I didn't really have much time to spend on it. It was mostly just word of mouth growth. And luckily I had a good employee who was managing things. So that company made $48,000 in that second year when I was 20 years old. And then about 2 months into being 20 is when I started branching out locations into other states. That's also another turning point when revenues were just skyrocketing, because that calendar year, the moving company did $821,000. So, that exponential. And then about 2 months into being 20 years old is when I expanded to a location in Utah and Texas. And that's when your boy was going nationwide and things were just blowing up even more. And through the year of being 20, the moving company did $821,000. And this is when I cracked $1 million. So it took about 7.5 years of growth and income to hit that $1 million point, which is super crazy because it only took about 1 year to hit my next $1 million. And then after that, about 6 months to hit my third $1 million. So it just goes to show, like, this compounding, it takes time to make money. You want things to be so quickly, and even this is a relatively quick story, but it was 7.5 years in the making to hit that first $1 million, 9.5 years to hit that third $1 million. So that's a long time. I was blessed to be able to start super, super young, and I don't know how or why I had the know-how to save and think long-term and know I would have a need in the future for these savings, and I really don't have a great explanation there. So my lifetime earnings at the end of being 20 years old was $1,331,000. So that means I hit that $1 million mark about 6 months into being 20, which is amazing thinking back at it now. So I was so preoccupied with all the million things that were going on that I never even had time to like sit and dwell and appreciate and like be like, wow, this is happening. I just remember everything going by so quickly. So I hope that this is helpful to see how long it takes for something to build up and grow. And hopefully it's interesting to see this in-depth look at, my path. Everyone's, path is different. So if you enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a like, because that helps me out so much, shows me that I'm doing the right things. Give me feedback, because, I want to see what you guys want to hear. I just want to spread the wealth. It was really cool for me to do this and take an hour and really break down year to year how I took one thing from another. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, because I would really appreciate that. Helps me see that you like what I'm doing. It helps me spread this message. Helps me help, other people out. Oh, and also, if you or anyone you know needs pre-workout containers, shoot me an email, because I got a few hundred of them that I don't need anymore. I don't know why I have them. But anyways, thanks for watching.